Top butt production. This is known as a 184 top butt. It's also known as a top sirloin. Think of it as the love handles of the animal. It actually sits on the bottom side towards the rump. This muscle actually consists of, I call it 3 muscle groups. You have your sirloin cap here, you have your sirloin heart on the bottom in the middle, and then you have what we affectionately call the rat and the mouse on the bottom side, riddled with connective tissue that needs to be removed before cutting into steaks. First thing we're gonna do is remove that sirloin cap, also known as the culotte, following the natural seams with your hand and then aiding it a little bit with your knife. Once the culotte's been removed, we're gonna come back, trim off a little bit of that fat on the bottom. You'll notice there's a little bit of silver skin at the point of the culotte that needs to be removed as well. At this point, once we've got all the fat and the silver skin peeled off the bottom, this is known as a fat on culotte. You might also know it as picanha. In the Brazilian steakhouses, this is their premier item that they're gonna fold over, put on skewers, and then roast and come to your table side and carve it next to you. However, we're gonna take this and cut it into one of my favorite value steaks known as a strip-style culotte. In order to do that, we're gonna take the fat cap off of this by following, again, that natural seam between the meat and the fat. One thing you'll notice on that fat cap, there's a little bit of connective tissue and silver skin that connects from the fat to the meat, and that's why we're removing this fat cap. At this point, you can see a good amount of waste coming off of the culotte steak, and the fat cap of the culotte is very, very, very thick. From here, we're gonna cut this into strip-style culotte steaks. Cutting against the grain. First cut that comes off is actually trim, and that will go into stew meat. The next cut is our strip-style culotte. Wonderful item. No more than 10 ounces on this one. It ends up getting a little bit too tall, a little too thin, ends up being more of a finger steak. Great marbling, extremely tender, wonderful center of the plate item. It's also very versatile. It can be used for salads, it can be used for sandwiches, it can be used for steak frites, any kind of center of the plate item that you're gonna do composed dishes for. The other spec that James is cutting now is known as our bias cut culotte. Bias cut just meaning on the angle. It's a little bit thinner, a little bit smaller, faster cooking times, better for sandwiches, better for salads, but great items coming out of the culotte. From the culotte, we're gonna go back to the heart muscle, trim that down, and show you some steaks that come out of that. At this point, we've got the fat cap removed off the top of the sirloin heart, and now we're going after that rat or mouse muscle. Again, trying to follow those natural seams that exist in the muscle so we're not butchering the cut, we're actually cutting some nice pieces of meat. The rat muscle comes out, and then we'll go ahead and start cutting some of the more beautiful steaks that come out of this. A lot of the chain restaurants are on this center cut heart muscle to produce their inexpensive steak items. So think of the Outbacks, the Chili's, the Applebee's of the world. They're the ones that are actually using this muscle more than any. And if you look at the pile to James's left right here, this is all the trim that comes off of that top butt. That is a boatload of waste. This is a great item to have Buckhead beef cut for your customer. Once we get to this point, we're at the heart. The heart is separated by a 1/3, 2/3 by a seam that's coming through these two muscles. From this point, we're gonna start producing all the different steaks that come out of that heart muscle. First one, just like everything else we do here, is a face cut. This will be used for stew meats. The next one is our full face cut. Full face cut is a great item for plate coverage and to produce a very inexpensive steak that's got a lot of ounces to it. Anywhere from 16 ounces and up is a great one for this. The only problem with the full face is right here. Kind of comes into the connective tissue that's running down from the 1/3, 2/3 split. The next cut, we're gonna produce another full face just so we can illustrate where the center cut comes from. That center cut is literally where we're gonna take that loin, split it in half to produce 2 center cut items. The center cut item, one is gonna have a piece of connective tissue, the other one will not. At this point, we're gonna make a separation between the 1/3, 2/3 to get that connective tissue out. Here we're gonna produce what's known as a baseball steak and then a 2/3 cut sirloin, or a no-seam center cut. The baseball sirloin, also known as a fillet of sirloin, is a killer cut. Problem with this one, it's a very dense muscle. I wouldn't go much more than 8 ounces on the size. The cook time on it just makes it a little bit difficult for the kitchen to handle. If you want to go a little bit bigger than 8 ounces, the 2/3 cut is a much better option. Taking, again, all this connective tissue out is very important from a bite standpoint so we don't have the bubble gum in the middle of the steak. And here you have your 2/3 cut. 2/3 cut being a little bit bigger, a little bit wider. But thin enough to where you can actually cook this thing to temperature and time. And there you have our top butt production.